Bill Clinton takes Washington by storm, including an early morning visit to the neighborhood McDonald's. The Exxon Valdez oil spill. New tape-recorded evidence that Exxon was more interested in covering up than cleaning up. And Eye on America. Tonight, a dramatic look at what some people are doing to help turn around this country's teenage killers.
I kill you, man. I kill you, man.
This is the CBS Evening News. Good evening, Dan Rather reporting. President-elect Bill Clinton today talked to some of the key people in Washington who could make or break what he calls his agenda for change. This came amid a rolling thunder kind of tour through official and unofficial Washington. Correspondent Bill Clinton tried to keep up on the Clinton watch.
The sun wasn't up, but Bill Clinton was. Day 2 of his campaign, reminding this capital city that a yuppie overachiever is coming to town. But this is a populist yuppie. Just as in Little Rock, he's out in the streets, stopping at McDonald's for decaf coffee.
Hello. How are you?
There were government workers and homeless people at this one, just 2 blocks from the White House. And the president-elect talked to all of them.
That's why I go at home. You know, you see a reasonable range of America, all the kind of the problems, the opportunities.
Says he intends to keep on doing it. A kind of endless campaign.
If it doesn't give the Secret Service a coronary, I will.
He hopes to remain welcome in the halls of Congress as well. This, too, is part of the campaign. But so is working crowds like this one, which could help him go over the heads of the Congress directly to the people if he needs to. Washington hasn't seen a campaign in the streets like this since Mikhail Gorbachev came to town.
He's more outgoing and willing to talk to people, unlike George Bush, who just wanted to lay back and let things go along.
Clinton clearly hopes to parlay this into change.
The sense I get from the American people is they don't expect miracles of us, but they do expect progress.
And the message to both the Congress and the crowds is, I'm different. And a different atmosphere at the White House as well. The campaign forgotten as First Lady Barbara Bush took Hillary Clinton on a tour of the family quarters. A meeting described by both women as very cordial. And at the White House late today, some sad news for the Bush family. The White House announced the death of Mr. Bush's mother, Dorothy Walker Bush, in Greenwich, Connecticut. Mrs. Bush was 91 years old. She had been ill for some time. She had suffered a stroke. The president went up there this morning after being informed that his mother was failing. He came back to the White House later this afternoon, and he heard of his mother's death from his sister, Nancy Ellis. Mrs. Bush was always described as a major influence in her son's life. After his inauguration in 1981, she said, I've been ready to have him be president since he chose to work for it, but I pray to God for him every day because it's the toughest job in the world. The funeral services will be held Monday. They will be private. Mr. Bush intends to go. Dan?
Thanks. Bill Plant at the White House on the Clinton and Bush watches. To hear the Bush administration tell it, the attempt to dig dirt on Bill Clinton, his mother, and Ross Perot before the election by digging into their passport files was wrong, but was limited. Low-level people. Tonight, it turns out there may be more to this story. Correspondent Eric Ingberg has been following up for this CBS Evening News reality check.
The invasion of Bill Clinton's privacy by Republican political appointees searching his passport records was far more extensive than has been previously known. Congressional committees that oversee the State Department today expressed shock at an inspector general's report that reveals that not only were files in a federal warehouse searched late at night, but that computer indexes were examined, classified national security files were opened, and the passport headquarters in downtown Washington was checked in the hunt for damaging information about Clinton, which turned out to be non-existent. While all that was going on, the State Department passport chief Betty Tamposi placed calls to U.S. embassies in England and Norway to urge diplomats to dig through their files. On Capitol Hill, Democrats rejected the Inspector General's finding that Tamposi and another mid-level State Department official, Stephen Berry, were behind the search, and that the White House wasn't involved.
I would personally believe that someone higher up than these two individuals had to insist on such an illegal record check.
Tamposi has insisted she cleared everything with superiors and believed her orders came from the White House. Her roommate at the time of the searches was Alix Glenn, Deputy Director of Communications for the Bush campaign. Glenn told CBS News Today she knew nothing about Tamposi's Clinton investigation and was unaware that Clinton's files had been delivered to Tamposi at the townhouse they shared. The outlook now is for more investigations. Angry Democrats are claiming the State Department failed to look hard enough for evidence of White House involvement in what they are now calling, inevitably, Stategate. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Washington.
It has been 3.5 years since the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska. Now, for the first time, some secrets are spilling out about Exxon's effort to limit the damage, not just to the offshore ecology around Prince William Sound, but to Exxon's own corporate image. Cindy Kennard has the secret tapes and the story.
Good Friday, 1989. The Exxon Valdez oil spill, the nation's worst environmental disaster. Even as 11 million gallons of crude oil are spreading over Prince William Sound, a chorus of criticism fired at Exxon for not moving fast enough.
At 2:30 this afternoon, there wasn't even a Kleenex in the water.
And tape recordings made public today suggest the chorus of criticism was heard loudly and clearly at Exxon.
This is going to be a public relations nightmare.
The phone conversations were secretly recorded by Alyeska, the company that operates the Alaska pipeline. 31 hours after the Valdez ran aground, Exxon official Don Cornett urges Alyeska Vice President Bill Howitt to take action. Anything that looks like action.
Get some activity going, okay? It's just real important that this morning it looks like we are making some progress, okay?
An hour later, Howitt still seems more concerned with the appearance of cleaning up than actually cleaning up.
So his business is to have everything flapping in the breeze that we can, whether it's catching oil or not. Yep, absolutely. All right.
An impatient Cornett then presses Alyeska's president to get equipment to the scene.
You can and get stuff out there. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it picks up 2 gallons a week.
Exxon says the excerpts are taken out of context and fail to make clear the company's extraordinary effort mounting the largest oil spill cleanup in history. But the man who led the congressional investigation wants to know why he never heard of the tapes.
We're talking about a corporate mentality here, which was designed to defraud the American public and the Congress of the United States.
Exxon has already agreed to a record $1 billion settlement, but airing these tapes publicly gives those with hundreds of suits still pending new ammunition. For the charge, Exxon cared less about the environment and more about saving the company name. Cindy Kennard, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Still to come on the CBS Evening News, new charges of possible police brutality in the death of a Los Angeles teenager, and a victory in court for some ancient rock and rollers.
Oh, why do fools fall in love? Why do birds sing?
Making a rare public appearance, the African-American motorist beaten by Los Angeles police officers says he can now, quote, imagine what the slaves went through. Rodney King told a group of black students that he can never forgive his treatment by the Los Angeles Police Department. It's been more than a year and a half since the Rodney King beating, and now a new case of alleged brutality is raising new concerns that not much, or at least not enough, has changed with the Los Angeles Police. Bill Lagatuda has more.
The mother of Ephraim Lopez at his funeral this week. She had called police when her son became violent, but didn't expect him to die. The 18-year-old was shot 9 times by an LAPD officer, a shooting neighbors say didn't have to happen.
And I'm a little mad because all he had was a broom. That was his weapon.
It was a broom handle like this that Lopez was swinging wildly at police, and as it turned out, he was high on PCP. But to disarm him, did the officer need to shoot him dead, or could he have used his baton?
That his baton isn't nearly as long as the broom handle was, and that kind of put him at a position of disadvantage.
It's a broom, it's not a weapon!
But Lopez's death in a poor Hispanic neighborhood at the hands of a white policeman has once again stirred up charges that when it comes to minorities, the LAPD all too often resorts to violence.
We come together today because of a broom. We do not intend to leave until a symbolic broom sweeps through this department.
The city's new police chief, Willie Williams, has already done some cleaning up, taking the officer who shot Lopez off the street temporarily. And when protesters confronted police commissioners, they found a new willingness to listen.
We are as much concerned about the conduct of our officers and whether or not the appropriate force is being used in the field as you are.
But the victims' relatives want to see the police in court.
Just like the Rodney King issue, this won't be the first or the last.
A common sentiment in this part of town, and proof that despite great promise, the LAPD has much to do to change its image in a city dying for change. Bill Agatudo, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Stay with us now for more of the CBS Evening News, including, does your surgeon make the cut? Help with picking the right surgeon for the job.
If you thought our last story was shocking, fasten your seatbelts again.
We're going to let the people know the real truth.
Wait till you see what we've uncovered now. Street Stories with Ed Bradley tonight.
Burger King reportedly has agreed to pay a $500,000 fine for violating child labor laws. The country's second biggest fast food chain was accused of requiring teenagers to work longer and later hours than is permitted by federal law. Now, from around the world, more CBS News. In Seoul, a gesture by visiting Russian President Boris Yeltsin to foster ties with South Korea. Yeltsin returned flight recorders from Korean Airlines Flight 007, shot down by a Soviet warplane 9 years ago. In Vientiane, Laos, Senator John Kerry said the Laotian government has agreed to give unprecedented access to U.S. teams still searching for Americans missing from the Vietnam War. In Paris, a fire in a street-level restaurant trapped people in apartments above. Before firefighters arrived, one man hanging on by his fingertips fell, taking with him a woman on the sill below. Both were seriously injured in France. In England, a retired gardener with a golden thumb. Looking for a lost hammer, he found a priceless hoard of Roman gold and silver coins and jewelry buried 1,600 years ago. A couple of guys from New York have also struck gold as a federal jury unraveled a rock and roll mystery. Just who was it who first asked this timeless question? The year was 1955, and Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers came up with a simple ballad that became a huge hit and turned into a rock and roll battle royale.
Instead of feeling good about what was playing on the radio, you know, as everybody else was feeling for you, it was hardly like that for me.
Herman Santiago and Jimmy Merchant, the only living members of the group, say they were ripped off. They insist they wrote the song, but the record producers took the credit, the copyright, and the cash. They've survived by singing at small clubs.
We recorded at least 50 records, and we never got a penny from it.
So they went to court, and almost 4 decades after the song was written, a jury finally ruled that Merchant and Santiago are the authors. The decision could mean millions in royalties for the duo, a real golden oldie.
We are the true authors of Why the Fools Fall in Love, and that will go in history now.
Why do birds sing so gay? Lovers await the break of day. Why do they fall in love?